Okay, so we are recording. Welcome. We're so excited that you're here. My name is Allison, and I'm a community facilitator for ACES Connection. And I'm here with Carey Sipp, who's also a community facilitator for ACES Connection. I'm just going to go over the structure a little bit so that you all know how this is going to work. And then I'm going to turn it over to Carey. We're so glad that you're here, and I'm seeing, you know, some names of folks that have joined us for some of our other discussions. Due to the current pandemic, we have been hosting these conversations on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays on different topics that feel very urgent and important to us in light of the times. And you all have helped co-create these conversations with us and helped us see which topics are important, and have helped us kind of create these conversations. So thank you so much for being here, and for participating, and for all your questions and comments. So these are meant to be interactive. I want to say thank you to everyone who has their camera on, because that actually helps us cultivate a community feeling of trust. So we invite you to, if you are able to, have your camera on. We love seeing your faces. We did go ahead and make these more secure by adding a couple extra steps to log in. So this is a safe space. So after I turn it over to Carey and our guests today, they will talk for a few minutes. While they're talking, we invite you to go ahead and drop your questions and comments into the chat. You can find that by clicking the chat button on the bottom of your screen. And you can kind of toggle back and forth, and so to send a question to the whole room, make sure it says that you're sending it to everyone. That's going to be a little easier than just sending stuff just to me. So kind of make sure you're sending so that it's part of the discussion for everyone to see. And then we will, if we can get to your comment, which hopefully we can, I will then call on you to unmute yourself. I will make that option available. And then you can say your comment out loud to the group so that it feels like a discussion. And if you want to leave a note, comment in the chat, like a resource or some sort of comment, but you don't want to share it by video, just go ahead and make a note of that in your comment. Like I don't need to share this with, you don't have to unmute me, that kind of thing. Otherwise, we might call on you. So thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Carey.
Thank you so much. I'm Carey Sipp, and I'm the Southeastern Community Facilitator for Regional Community Facilitator for ACES Connection. And thanks, Allison, for monitoring this and doing all the, keeping the flight safe, as it were. So we talk a lot about trauma-informed, something that is trauma-informed, and the idea of trauma-informed housing, and melding trauma-informed housing with education. What does that look like? Trauma-informed is defined as, the care is defined as a strength-based framework that is grounded in an understanding of and responsiveness to the impact of trauma, that emphasizes the physical, psychological, and emotional safety for both providers and survivors, that creates opportunities for survivors to rebuild a sense of control and empowerment. And that is according to Hopper, Bessuk, and Olivet in 2010. So I'll start out with Margie, the founder of Margaret Stagmeier, the founder of Star-C. And then Audrea Reese, who is the executive director, and Kristin Hemingway, who is directs an after-school program at one of the properties. So how does Star-C work to build physical, psychological, and emotional safety? And how from the beginning, when you first started with this, Margie, did this start and happen that way? I know Kristin's known you from the get-go, so this will be interesting. Oh, we can't hear you, Margie.
How do I do this? Do I unmute myself?
There you go. You're good now. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for having us on the show. We appreciate the time. Basically, I'm a landlord. I own and manage blighted low-income apartment communities. And what I found, I've been doing this my whole career. I've owned and managed about 3,000 units in Atlanta. What I found over time is that the school was usually failing when we purchased these low-income apartment communities. And I went and met with the principal, Dr. Ritchie, in one of my first communities that we bought. And she was explaining to me how transiency really impacts education. And as you can imagine, in low-income apartment communities, the transiency rate is really high.
And so tell me what transiency is.
Transiency is the movement of a student from the school during the school year. So if a landlord raises the rent significantly, or if there's a lot of crime and it's an unstable environment, then the families typically move out to search for more affordable housing or safer housing, and they take their children out of school. Every time a child moves out of school, they lose 3 months of education. So we decided to partner with that school, Brumby Elementary, and that's how I met Kristin. She was our first after-school director. And basically, our goal was to provide affordable housing. In other words, housing that someone earning $35,000 or $30,000 a year could afford. And then we started doing wraparound services, free after-school programs, free summer camps, in partnership with the school, and basically to give that child a very stable, safe environment so that they could thrive. And that's at the core of our mission, is to reduce transiency in the school by offering a family an affordable, safe housing environment so that they can thrive in life.
That's such a great thing. And I've been to some of your communities. I've seen what it looks like, and they are communities. I mean, y'all are community builders. And Audrea, you've built communities as a former Leadership Atlanta executive director of Leadership Atlanta?
No, I was the director of alumni affairs and special initiatives. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Will you say a little bit more about some of the services? I know y'all start the kids out at the first of the school year with school supplies, and they've had some checkups and whatnot. Tell us about how that works so that kids get a good start.
Okay, I'll tell you overall about the programs of Star-C, and then I can dive in specifically into our after-school program. So at this point, Star-C offers 4 programs, and our overall goal, as Margie said, is to reduce transiency. So we partner with landlords who have agreed to keep their rents affordable and provide decent, affordable housing. And from there, we go in and offer other programs and services that will benefit the entire family. For the children, we specifically have free on-site after-school programs and summer camp offered at no cost to the residents. We also have wellness initiatives and food security initiatives that primarily involve gardening, on-site gardening. And we've just launched a 4th program, which is an eviction relief fund, where Star-C will again partner with the landlord and the tenant, and Star-C will pay a portion of their delinquent rents to help them remain on site and not get evicted. So again, our overall goal is to prevent move-outs and to prevent transiency at the community, and in turn prevent transiency at the school. Specifically in terms of our after-school program, that's where we partner with the local elementary school primarily. As you will find, Star-C is very, very big on partnerships. And our on-site community director, which in this case is Kristin Hemingway, she runs an after-school program that seeks to assist the children in their learning, to tutor them, to help coordinate with the school in closing learning gaps, and also to provide social and emotional learning, which is a very key component of the program and of the children's personal development. We also partner with the parents to be an advocate for them and a liaison between them and the school, and in some issues, in some situations, a liaison between them and the property, just to make sure that the families are getting what they need and that they understand how best to support their children. Again, this is offered at no cost to them. So when the children get out of school, they can come directly to our after-school program. It runs from about 2:30 to about 6 p.m. They come in, they have a chance to relax, do some exercises, get settled into the program. Then they get homework help, tutoring. They can do enrichment activities. And as I said, the social emotional learning, and they also get a snack. So this helps the children not to have to go home and be locked up in their apartments with no supervision, or even worse, just wandering around the community. So it really provides a safe space for the children where they're getting guidance, where they're cared for, loved on, all those sorts of things. And the parents can come and get them when they get off work or release them into the care of an authorized person. So that's how that works. We operate in sync with the school. So when the school was closed, we're closed. So obviously we're closed right now because unfortunately the schools are not in session. But typically we would be in session right now, and we just go by their calendar. In the summer, we offer a partial day summer camp that is also free and on-site, very convenient for the parents. And again, that's to keep the children engaged, give them something to do, keep them out of trouble, and then to prevent excessive summer slide or learning loss so that they can be prepared for school in the fall.
That's great. So Kristin, you've loved on a lot of these kids through the years. And I bet there's some principals that have loved on you in return because you've helped those kids. So tell me about some of the kids that you've helped and what the response of some of the principals have been to what happens when Star-C comes into a school. Because I would imagine that I might have been a little skeptical at first, but then, or not comes into the school, but works with the school. So what was it like in the beginning and how is it now? Oops, can't hear you.
Yeah, I realized, I was like, oh, muted. Every call, I do this every call. So with Brumby, actually, it was a super easy transition due to a church I was associated with at the time. I knew the people at Brumby already. I had done work with Brumby. I had done volunteer projects at what was Madison Hills at the time. So it was not like a cold call at all. It was very much so at working on an established relationship and helping it to go deeper. So it was actually really easy. And Dr. Payne and her staff at Cleveland Avenue have just been absolutely delightful. I was not familiar with Dr. Payne when we started, but I had actually at a former job been a partner with the middle school that those students feed into. So again, I came in with some level of almost like a soft pass, like, oh, I know somebody who I can talk to who can tell me, is this person legitimate? Like, do they really care? And the partnership I had with the middle school had been like a 4.5-year partnership. So it was a super easy connection. And one of the things we did, which I appreciate with Star-C, is we went in before school started that year. And I did a presentation to all the teachers to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what we're doing. We're not here to gentrify. We're not here to push these kids out. We're here to serve these families, to love these families, and to be partners with you to make sure that these students understand that they can be successful, and doing everything we can to ensure that success does come.
We've got some questions in the chat. People are wondering about how Star-C works, and it's STAR-C. And on the internet, it's 3star. .org, right?
No, it's star-c.org.
Star-c.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Kenny, do you want to ask your question? Allison can plug you in, or do you want us to just?
Oh, I think we can go ahead and just, these are some like basic clarifying questions. If you guys could just go ahead and help us understand what Star-C is, that would be awesome.
That he wants to know how you're funded and how you administer the programs, how you can help support the families, where those funds come from. So I guess, Margie, you and Audrea.
I'll let Audrea answer.
Okay. So Star-C, again, as I said, we partner with the landlord. So basically the landlord pays for half of the cost of the program. So they are assessed a monthly fee where they cover operating costs and different things like that. And then in addition to that, they provide a 2-bedroom apartment at no cost on site for our program directors. They provide space on site for our programs to operate, and they handle any repairs and utilities and different things like that for our programs to operate on site. And then the Star-C itself covers the other costs by fundraising and applying for grants and individual donations.
So then are some of the apartments, y'all own some of the apartments, and some of the apartments, a landlord, another person owns those apartments, and y'all just go in with the wraparound services?
Yes, the way that Star-C has been operating so far is out of the 4 sites where Star-C has programs, 3 of them has some level of ownership affiliation. However, every property signs the same agreement. Every property pays the same amount, every property has the same obligations for what their contributions are and what their responsibilities are as far as the program goes. So there's no discount where there's any sort of ownership affiliation. And we are continually looking to expand our program at other properties.
So Margie, when you started this and you would go and look at blighted apartments, tell us what would be the process? You'd go look in an apartment that the complex was full of mold and there were rats all around and it might have been a high crime area. What was your process with that when you started all this?
So the first thing we look at when we're looking at apartment communities to purchase is the school. Is it a low performing school? And if the answer is yes, then we're interested in the apartments as long as we can purchase and renovate them in a manner that keeps the rents affordable for working poor families. So our target is families earning, like I said, $30,000 a year, $25,000 to $35,000 a year. So the rents are around $750 a month. That's our goal.
Okay. And so Audrea, tell us about some of the differences in some of the communities. I've been to some of the communities. Mm-hmm. There's a gorgeous Kaboom playground at Willow Branch that mm-hmm. I was there the day that people came in from CarMax and helped get that installed, and gardens all over the place and people out playing and enjoying each other. And is this how it was at those apartment complexes before you bought them? Paint us a picture of the difference there.
Oh, absolutely not. That's not how it was at the apartments that we operated in before. Willow Branch, Margie has been affiliated with that property now for going on about 20 years, Margie, is that correct? So yes. She has had a lot of time to really work on that property and get it stabilized and get it to a certain level of expectations. She's been able to cooperate with the police to make sure that there's not an entrenched crime element there. So Willow Branch is a very stable community. It has a waiting list. It's a very desirable place to live in Clarkston. So that property, from a community standpoint, is like the finish line. It's the goal of where we're trying to get. Springview, where Kristin lives, was purchased in June of 2018, and it was not anywhere. It was on the opposite end of the spectrum of Springview. It was your textbook blighted property of 144 units. I think 94 of them were offline because they were just not livable at all, completely boarded up, trashed. There was a very, very deeply entrenched criminal element there. No place for the kids to play because the criminals had ripped out the playground on site there. It was notorious within the city of Atlanta for being one of the most crime-ridden communities in the city. In terms of the neighborhood, the crime that emanated from Springview caused a very high number of lockdowns to occur at the elementary school. So Cleveland Avenue had one of the highest level of lockdowns because of criminal activity surrounding it. So again, it was not a calm place to live, just a high level. Margie, you can talk about the number of 911 calls when we bought the property. Tell about that.
So the year before we bought it, they had 443 911 calls, of which 275 were for violent crimes. Gunfire, gunshot, murder, fighting, drug dealing, burglaries, armed robberies. It was a very, very unsafe property. And as a result, the children living there were 63 children living there attending Cleveland Elementary. They were severely traumatized by the time we purchased the property.
Now, was this where, when you put in the after-school program, Margie, there was the little boy who would just go and curl up in the corner and and would you talk about that? Because these kids, they not only have adverse childhood experiences at home where they may be left with parents going to work and leaving them in the afternoon. They may be witnessing domestic violence. They may be they're living in poverty. They may be then experiencing the environmental adverse childhood experiences of all of the violence out there. So talk about this little boy, and was he representative of the other children as well?
So the property, because it was affordable, the average rents when we bought it were about $640 a month and about $1,000 a month market. Okay. So we had a lot of legacy tenants that were living there that had no affordability options. I mean, they were stuck there. So they had to endure the crime as it grew. 2017 was the peak year, and they had no choice but to raise their children here. And God bless Kristin. So Kristin, one of her key components with starting the after school program is social emotional learning, and basically teaching these children coping skills. And I'll let Kristin talk about that. But a lot of these children that we had in our Star-C program, literally they were walking through drug dealers. Gunfire was, happened several times a week. Some of these children were just terrified to go to sleep in their apartments. And we noticed when we first started the Star-C program, there were several children that were so traumatized, they could not even cope with dealing in the Star-C program. So, that's one of the things she's dealt with, is I noticed that there were children, one in particular that was, he needed a moment, but I think working with her, he has now really become more stabilized, and I think he's doing a lot better in school. Just one more thing I want to add is, not only were these children traumatized, but they were going into homes that had very high incidence of rodent and pest infestation. So a lot of them have asthma, because that's the number one trigger, is actually roaches and mold. And obviously this property was not well kept. So that's what Kristin inherited when she started the after school program there, is just a community of severely traumatized children in a severely traumatizing environment.
Wow. And so these kids would go from trauma at home and then to school and be expected to learn.
Right.
And so how is that community? What does it look like now, Kristin? You're the resident person there. Do y'all have the gardens in yet? Do you have the playground?
So we have our beautiful Kaboom playground that was built in October of last year, that had over 200 volunteers. That was just an amazing thing, even for the kids to see. The kids were able, like, by the time they got over there after school is right when we were cutting the ribbon, so they were able to be a part of that. And one of the sweetest moments in that is one of my students, he was like, all of these people are here for us. And I was like, I told you, like, because Kaboom, the kids are part of the process. So we did a design day. They saw them doing the prep work. And so when it came time to build the playground, there was a ton of conversation about this playground. And was I sure that it could be built in one day? Were there going to be enough people? All of that. And so when they came from school and they were able to see, and I reminded them, I said, remember I told you there were a bunch of people who believe in you and who wanted to support you? This is a representation of that. They believe in you, they believe in your potential, and they want to support you. And so we're going to honor them and their support by taking advantage of it so that we can be our best selves. So yes, we have a Kaboom playground. We do not have gardens at this point. I think also with gardening, part of it is the population that you serve. When you talk about gardens in Clarkston and this large refugee population, you're also dealing with people who are used to gardening, who that's like a part of their culture, that's part of their tradition. They want to do that. So we want to ensure that it's not just like a bright idea in the moment, and then people have no desire to continue to cultivate it, because that can create its own set of challenges. But we still are working on food security, which is the underlying effort that the gardening helps with, is ensuring that people have access to good quality, healthy, affordable food, because we are in a food desert. I'm privileged, right? I have my car. I can drive to Publix 15 minutes away and get whatever I want, whenever I want, under normal circumstances. But that's not everybody's story. And so we want to ensure that our families and our kids have access to quality food, because we know that diet affects ability to learn, And so it's not that kids aren't bright or kids aren't talented. If I'm hungry, my learning levels go way down. And I know that I have food coming. So what someone experiences when they really don't know if there is food coming, when they really don't understand if there's going to be a meal after this, and I don't care about your multiplication facts. And so we want to ensure that we, as best as we can, partner with families to meet these underlying concerns so that kids are free to learn.
So how are y'all getting food into that community then?
Partnering them with outside programs that do have different food options, because everybody's situation is unique.
Yeah.
What everybody needs is different. And so a big part of what we're doing at this point, until we can secure a program to just kind of work with for the long haul, is getting people the services that they need as those needs arise.
Gotcha.
I would also like to add, in terms of the food security aspect, with our free on-site summer camp, right now all of Star-C's program are primarily focused on elementary age kids, but in the summertime, older kids have been allowed to come and at least get some breakfast or some lunch through the program, so they can at least eat even if they're not participating in the camp. So Kristin facilitated them being able to do that, because a structured feeding program is really important for when the kids are out of school. So that is another aspect of us facilitating food security, was allowing elementary age kids and even some older kids to eat over the summer with our summer camp program, which we partner with the Atlanta Community Food Bank for that.
Right.
Carey, I'm gonna step in here and field some questions. I just wanted to comment, what don't you offer? Gardens, food, after school programs, summer programs? My mind is blown. This is amazing. I want to let Celine, let me enable it so that you can unmute yourself. Hold on. Celine, go ahead and unmute yourself if you are here. Okay,
Yep.
you, awesome.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how do you get buy-in from the landlords? Do they get any type of credit or anything to participate in this program?
Thank you, Celine.
So
Audrea?
I'll take a stab at that question. So our program, as I said, our goal is to reduce transiency. So that means that we want to lower the number of people who are moving out. When a person moves out of an apartment, it can cost the landlord a lot of money. They have to go in and turn the apartment, which means they have to make repairs, they have to repaint, they have to change the carpet, they might have to change some of the appliances, and the apartment will be vacant for a while. So it can, turning an apartment unit and it being vacant until another tenant can come in, can end up costing the landlord thousands of dollars. So by reducing the number of people who move out, the landlord is reducing their expenses at the property. They're keeping their occupancy high. And typically, as residents are more engaged with a community, they'll take better care of it. So there are some benefits to the landlords for having our programs on site. One of our properties in Marietta, which is known as Stratford Ridge, they market the Star-C program as an amenity. They let the people who are interested in renting at the property know that there is a free on-site after-school program, there's a summer camp, all those things that are free. So while we primarily serve the residents of a property, because those residents will tend to renew their leases more often and stay longer, it has a direct financial benefit to the landlord.
Thank you so much. I wanted to let Kenny unmute themselves. Okay, see you. Can you share your question?
I think you already answered that, which was, how do you get funded, and are there subsidies involved with this, such as Section 8 or 42, or are subsidies offered by the landlords or anything?
We operate at programs that do have some rent subsidies and some that do not. Right now, about half of our properties offer subsidies and half of them do not. We don't require that, but we do require that the landlords try to keep their rents affordable. And we use a fairly broad range, fairly broad metric to measure that. Their rents have to be affordable for people earning up to 80% of area median income, which in Atlanta, that can be just under $83,000 a year. So technically, one of our landlords could raise their rent up to right above $1,600 a month. But that's just, so our rents can range from $600 and some dollars a month all the way up to $1,600, depending on the community. But we try to keep our programs in neighborhoods that are typically designated as affordable or workforce housing. Your people who may work at Walmart, at Publix, who may be a receptionist, people who may work at the airport, or even people who may be firefighters, teachers, and earn higher incomes but cannot afford to pay the maximum in rent. That is such a challenge for people, especially here in Atlanta and really all across the country.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Marsha. I unmuted you. Yeah.
This is really interesting. I guess I'm still having some questions about the overall financial model. So my question is, like, if some of us who are listening to this are saying, wow, that's great, we'd really like to see if we could replicate it in our community. What are, from your experience, what are some of the essential things that you would need to get or have in place in order to launch a program like this? It might be upfront investment capital, it might be leadership, but just, from your experience, what would we be looking at?
You want me to take that one?
Yeah, and I can jump in with you when you're done.
Okay. Well, I think that what it takes is really the will of the landlord. The landlord needs to be willing to come in here to invest the money. In Atlanta, it runs about $3,000 a month, plus a free apartment, plus they're funding the utilities and the cost of the community facility. So first, you need the political will of the landlord. Second, when we buy properties, we need to buy them at a price that does not exceed roughly $55,000 to $60,000 per unit all in. At that price, using lower capital, and we've started an impact fund where people can invest with us and we pay a lower rate of return on their investment. But anyway, if you can basically purchase the property and renovate it in a more forgivable capital environment, then you can keep your rents low. So basically, that's the key for us, is you have to have a willing landlord and you have to be able to offer rents affordable for families so that if they do have a little hiccup in their income stream, they can still afford to stay.
Can I say, from a staffing perspective,
Sure.
You need somebody who looks at people and doesn't see their deficits, but their possibilities. I deal with a lot of people who are constantly told where they're going wrong, what they don't have, what they can't do. It's just a lot of closed doors and a lot of being deficit minded. And I'm a firm believer in you get more of whatever you focus on. And so you have to have somebody who is not looking down on people, but who has compassion for people. That for me, from a spiritual perspective, it's like literally, but by the grace of God, I could be in the same situation. I'm no better than you. We just have made some different choices that have allowed us to end up in different circumstances. At the same time, if it's part of it is a matter of choices, we can work together to get you some of the choices to, help you make some of the choices to get you to where you want to be, because there's potential here. You don't have to always be here. This does not have to always be your life. You can have something more if you want something more, and you can take what you have and make it the best that it can be. And if someone doesn't have that mindset, it's hard to do this work and to actually have impact.
So in some instances before, would the principals and the landlords maybe not have been good friends, because the landlords raising the rent means that the principals and the schools are seeing their student body turn over, a couple of 3 times a year. But now you've got landlords who are working with the principals, and talk about some of the benefits of when a landlord, such as yourself, you own some of the apartment complexes, but then somebody else owns some of the other ones that have bought the wraparound service. What happens with this partnership between the landlords and the principals? What happens to the schools? We've talked about some good things that happen to the kids, but talk about the schools and how the rankings have gone up, or if they have.
Well, typically when there's less turnover at an apartment community, there's less turnover at the school. So that means that the student body can be more stable, and that can make it easier for the children to learn, make it easier for the classroom to function, and make it easier for the just for the school to do what it's designed to do. When an apartment community has a high transiency rate, that means that the children are constantly moving in and out of the school as well. And every time a child moves, they lose 3 months of learning because it's so disruptive. So when the apartment can come in and get stabilized, if it forms a high enough percentage of the school, it can help the school to be more stable. And then by the children getting academic support via our programs, their performance can be better, which again impacts the performance of the school. at Kristin's site for the 2019 school year, her cohort of children did better on their end of year milestone testing than their peers at the school overall. So because they were getting some extra focused attention, because they were able to be in an environment that was improving as opposed to being in a constant state of decline, and with the programs that she put in place at her center, she was able to help those children move along and see some improvement relative to their peers. And we were really looking forward to seeing what those results were going to be this year. And of course, everything is just totally up in the air right now, but we're all doing the best that we can with that. But typically, if you can stabilize the apartment communities around a school that is a high need school, then you can stabilize that school itself. And you'll see there's some communities around Atlanta where the school may be adopted by the business community, for example, and a lot of money can be basically thrown at that school. But if they don't stabilize the neighborhoods and reduce that transiency rate, then all of the investment, all the money is just going to walk out the door with those kids when they get up and move 2 and 3 times a year. So we have seen improvement. Go ahead, Kristin.
I will say some other just really tangible things for the school. My school, Cleveland Avenue Elementary, is the only elementary school in Atlanta Public Schools that is nationally STEM certified. Part of that came from partnerships they were able to get with local businesses in the community through their partnership with Star-C. That was a huge benefit to the school to have someone else who can bring in people they're already working with and partnering with to come alongside that school as well. A couple of my students weren't able to get their technology devices because maybe they didn't come to school the day technology was given out, or nobody could take them up to the school when technology was given out. I was able to call all of my parents or text them. I was able to talk directly to the principal. I was able to go pick stuff up because people maybe have transportation issues, and get those students the devices they needed to continue learning throughout this process. If a student, I had a teacher who was able to call me because she came to bring a student a packet of work, but they weren't answering the phone at that point. She was able to call me and give it to me so that I could give it to the student. The partnerships are invaluable for the school because there's a level of access that I get as a resident that they don't always have. The teacher couldn't get in the gate if somebody doesn't let her in the gate. I live here. I can get in and out of the gate. Something super simple, but how many times is she going to drive back over here to try to drop off the same information if she can't get in contact with a family when I live here? And so, and even the school also, I had teachers say they knew we were serious when I said I was moving in. When I was like, oh, no, this is not about doing something for someone else. This is my community. This is my school. These are my kids. And so even supporting the students and being able to go to programs at the school, because maybe your parent can't show up, but you have support in the audience. That builds morale for more kids than one. You see what I'm saying? And so having someone who can be that surrogate, I'm a community auntie, like that's my thing. Having someone who can play that role of surrogate doesn't just benefit the kids in the program. They're kids at the school that when I go over there, they know me and they speak to me, and I can help with things that are going on that benefit more than just the students that I serve because of this partnership. It's another safe adult that everyone has access to because they work with us.
So even though sometimes you only have something like 8% of the students that are in the Star-C program, the school will bump up in the statewide rankings substantially. What have you gone from and to just by having just a few students who go to school regulated, who are getting some special TLC after school?
What we've seen at our property in Clarkston, it had gone from being one of the very lowest performing schools in the state to being a platinum growth performer at least 3 years in a row. And that's where the school has been recognized for its improvement overall. So again, that's just a part of the partnership with the school. We meet with them before the beginning of the year. We ask them what their goals are. What are they focused on? So we can make sure that our program is in sync with that and that we're lining up with what they want to achieve. So our property in Clarkston has been operating the longest, and that's where we have noticed those types of improvements. So obviously we can't just wholesale move the needle overall, but all of our programs can have an impact. We had a principal panel for all of the principals that are participating with us just 2 months ago, or last month, I should say. It seems so long ago. And they were all so excited. They all spoke so highly of Star-C. They spoke about the impact it had had on their children and that it would have. And so we had principals for 3 of our sites. We had another one that we were working on the relationship with. And then we had the principal for a property that is going to be built from the ground up. Everyone was super excited, and we've been able to tighten those relationships up, tighten up the level of cooperation. And so we're really excited about all that. Partnership is the name of the game with Star-C. We partner with the landlord, we partner with the tenants, we partner with the school, we partner with other organizations, we partner with the community as a whole, because we believe that when we all work together, we can help everyone in the neighborhood move forward.
And I will also say is keeping in mind, it can take 3 to 4 years
Absolutely.
to start to really see the growth. Because one of the things we learned with our superintendent, Dr. Kostarfin, is that the poorest kids are in Atlanta are typically 2 to 3 grade levels behind where they should be. You don't make up for 2 to 3 grade levels in a school year.
Right.
Or even 2. There, part of it is just building confidence, because for so long you thought you couldn't. You know, part of that is the social emotional learning. Part of that is building the capacity to say, this is hard, but I'm still capable. You know, now this is hard and I'm done. That's where a lot of, you know, when we get a lot of kids, it's like, this is hard, so I'm going to act out. It's frustrating, all of those things. So when it comes to testing, and there's so much pressure put on testing and on, you know, these very tiny humans without a full understanding of, you know, why it's this way. My 3rd graders don't know anything about, you know, a cheating scandal years ago. My 3rd graders don't understand the importance of this one test necessarily. But having someone who can encourage and help them build their confidence in their abilities and say, you know what, this test is hard, but you are capable. Like, what's next? That's a mantra we have all year. It is hard, but what's next? Like, we can acknowledge difficulty and still move forward and be successful. Those types of mindset shifts alone open the door for the academic success that you see over a 3 to 4 year period.
Thank you. I want to bring in a couple of these questions that we have. Tinetra, and let me know if I'm saying your name right. I have just unmuted you. If you could ask your question.
Tinetra.
Okay.
I was asking, how would one, I guess, apply?
Yeah, thank you. Like a resident to
Yes.
live there? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So if you live on site at one of our properties, unless we have maxed out on the capacity of our after-school program, then you just need to fill out some paperwork and register your child. But again, that's for anyone who is a resident of our property. So we have that the after-school and summer camp are primarily for the elementary school age children. Our wellness initiative and the food security programs, those can be open to anyone. But primarily for the after-school program, if you're a resident, just sign up and then your child can start attending.
What about people who live at one of your properties?
People who don't live there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if they want to live there, then they need to move there. They can just visit the property, inquire about leasing, so they would need to contact the property management office.
I see. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Lee Scandanaro, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was just I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the scale of each of the sites. So in terms of, like, you know, how many residents there are, but then also in terms of, like, the landlords, how many units in total do these landlords have? So even beyond kind of the one site themselves. I'm just trying to get a sense of, I guess, like I said, scale there, if that makes sense.
So right now, with the programs that are hosting our full suite of programs, which is the after school, the summer camp, the food security, and then of course the eviction relief site that's coming up, we have just over 1,000 units. And so at some of these properties, particularly at the one in Clarkston, we have multiple families living in each unit. So we think that we're approaching about 2,000 families that we touch every year over the scope of our programs. So that's where we are right now. And as I mentioned earlier, with the eviction relief program, we're in the process of rolling that out. So that program will reach some properties that might not have an after-school component, but that will allow us to have an entree into more properties and then hopefully to expand our after-school program at compatible sites from there.
Thank you both.
So,
Okay.
you're saying, thank you. You're saying 2,000 in total. How many at like each geographic site though would it be?
So you want me to go site by site and tell you how many units there are and how many families there are? Is that what you're asking?
No, just maybe one in general. Like what's the prime number by like one
Okay,
site?
so I'll start with our oldest one, which is Willow Branch in Clarkston. Clarkston is a very small town here in the Atlanta area. It's about 1 square mile, but it's called the most diverse square mile in the United States. It has a very high refugee and immigrant population. There are 186 units at Willow Branch and about 700 plus people live there. There are a lot of children there. As far as the number that we have registered in our program, it's about 70 children that are registered in the program. And we typically have about 45 gardens on site that the residents manage on their own every year. So those are the stats for our oldest property. Our wellness initiative there, where at all the properties, we will partner with a local federally qualified health clinic. We'll bring them on site to do health screenings, different types of educational events for the residents, and then we will also help facilitate the residents going to the medical facilities for doctor's appointments, for the children to get immunizations and different things like that.
Thank you so much. Tian. You want to unmute yourself? Oh, here, there we go. I unmuted you. Go for it.
My question's for Margaret. Margaret, it seems to me you are sort of part social worker, part businesswoman. Is that accurate? Because you're wrapping your mind around so much more than business, and I imagine that the profit model would look different from profit models for other developers, or are you able to get funding because it's you're reconditioning a property and revamping and bringing services? How does that look? Who are you that you're doing this? It's really interesting to me because it's so positive, it's so wrapped around, it's so beautifully thought out. And I understand you're a team who've done that together, but I understand the team. I'm wondering.
I'm gonna unmute you. Sorry, I had you. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I call myself a mission-based for-profit landlord. And I have to tell you, I'm being a little bit selfish because when I started this, actually about 20 years ago, what I found was by offering community services, I got the benefit of a triple bottom line. You know, I had properties that when you offer these services, they typically stay over 95% occupied. The tenants typically do not move, so I don't have that expense. And then their children typically are not roaming around the property. It's in an orderly fashion. So I think that actually there is a very strong business case for operating apartment communities in this format versus not operating apartment communities in this format. So, I mean, I think our profit's actually higher by doing a mission-based community platform like you're seeing.
I would also like to add on Margie's behalf, she has been dubbed the compassionate capitalist, which means that when she invests in a property, she follows a model that is not designed to squeeze every penny that she literally can out of it. It's designed to make a profit,
Yes.
maybe not the maximum profit, but as she said, you get those those intrinsic rewards, those intangible rewards. The whole community does better. The valuation of your property goes up, even if you're not getting the trust right now. So I just want to make sure you guys, Margie's known as the compassionate capitalist. If you Google that, she might come up and you can read more about her online.
So we have had so many great questions and comments and questions, and I think that we could keep discussing for a very long time. We are going to wrap up this call by 4 p.m. Eastern time. So we will start wrapping up here, and so we just may not get to everyone's question. However, I want to invite everyone who is here to continue these types of conversations on acesconnection.com. And so many of you do know that you're welcome to make a post on our website. And there's lots of different posts that you can make. And one of them is a community request, ask the community. One of them is a blog. One of them is a calendar event. So if you want to continue these types of conversations with us, we invite you to come on over to acesconnection.com and start raising some of these discussion questions on our website, as well as meeting us back here on Thursday for our next call, which will be the same time and same Zoom place. Carey, I'll let you direct the wrap up.
Okay, that would be great. There was one question about sustainability. And so if you could just speak to sustainability with this, how is this for the long haul for you?
So Willow Branch, we've owned it for 20 years. I mean, we've been at it for 20 years. Summerdale Springview, we bought that 1.5 years ago. I mean, we're delivering a beautiful model that's affordable, and we are seeing Cleveland Avenue and the families improve. So, I mean, we're a for-profit model. We feel like we're very sustainable.
And then another thing that struck me, the parents of these children. Talk about what this means to the parents to be in something such as this. Why do they move out if they move out?
Kristin, I'll let you answer that one.
As I tell parents all the time, so I don't have children of my own. I love all of you people who have them and let me play with them. But based on even my mother, I'm a 39-year-old adult. I've lived away from home longer than I lived at home at this point. And my mother is still very particular about who I'm with and what I am doing. How much more so for your 5-year-old? How much more so for your 9-year-old or your impressionable child who maybe has some struggles, who maybe has some behavior challenges? You want to know that they are loved, that someone is trying to understand them, that they are well cared for, and that somebody sees the best in them. Think about what that does for you as an adult, and how much more so for people who are often overlooked or people who are often mistreated or misjudged based on the fact that they don't have as much money as someone else. It means the world to those families to have someone who sees the best when they see their children. So that's one aspect of it. And it helps them to also build community. As kids get to know each other and play with each other, it encourages parents to do the same thing.
And so do the parents get to do a better job at their work? And that's a leading question. I'm absolutely priming the pump there, but what do you see happens to the parents at work if they know their kids are safe at home?
They can focus. They can focus. Some parents can take on more hours. Some parents, while our program has a definite end time, I've had single parents who I knew who were working and they're freaking out because they're trying to get home. And I can say, take your time, and they know that their kid is safe until they can get home. They still don't have to go home alone. Benefit of living in the community, right? I'm still here. I have sat outside of someone's apartment for over an hour in my car because they got stuck in Atlanta traffic, as has happened to all of us. But they were able to, and I said, take a deep breath. Like, your kids are still with me. We know that they are safe. Get home safely. Like, that allows a person to just literally take a deep breath, release some of the stress, and to do everything they can to position their family the best possible way.
And then I would also like to add to that, Carey, to say that in some of our communities, some parents are actually would be considered low literacy themselves. So they're not in a position to really help their kids with their homework. I know a lot of times when even I have a master's degree, but when I'm helping my daughter with her math, I have to Google some of that stuff. So imagine for some parents who might not have had that level of education, things are just different. Or if they have kind of academic or cognitive challenges themselves, that can just really be a challenge for them. But if if they can put their kids in a program with someone like Kristin, she can help the children with their homework in a way that the parents cannot. So that's just another way that we're helping the parents. They don't have to worry so much or be upset about what they can't do because they have someone helping them to do more.
And one last statement, we've also been invited into school meetings where parents have sometimes felt intimidated based just on language or education level or whatever the case may be, and serve as a liaison and an advocate. And I've been in IEP meetings, you know, some of my counterparts have been in these various meetings with students, families, and schools to be that person who can serve as a translator almost and a bridge builder so that everybody can get what they want in the end, which is the success of the children and families.
So one last question, and then I know we've got to go, but if the government, if the states were to say, we want to support programs like this, what would they gain from this, from the standpoint of community health and success in school and stability? Would that be something that, would you help the government put something like this together?
We'd love
We
to.
sure would. Yes, ma'am. We would help on every level. And even with that, we partner with the government. Invest Atlanta helped provide some of the financing to purchase and renovate the properties where Kristin works through a housing opportunity bond. So we do partner with the government, and we would like to expand that. They would get more stable communities, the schools will perform better, and overall there will be less crime.
And there would be fewer ACEs. There would be fewer adverse childhood experiences,
yes,
and we would
indeed.
help on this ground stop the cycle of abuse.
And as I mentioned before, the adverse childhood experience that we're putting heightened focus on right now is that of eviction. We're really giving more attention to reducing those evictions through our eviction relief fund. So if you guys want to see how you can help, just go out to our website at star-c.org and you can read more about it. We just launched it this week. We're running a GoFundMe program. Just take a look and you can see how no matter where you are, you can help us to reduce the level of evictions here in Atlanta.
Well, I just want to thank you all so much. Thank you. Margaret. Thank you, Audrea. Thank you so much, Kristin. And thank you to all of our guests. And Allison, you can just close us out.
All right.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here and creating our community. Thanks, Carey, and thanks everyone. This was just wonderful. And please continue to join us for these conversations moving forward.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.